Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Speaking of doing whatever you want, hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. Well, actually, technically 4Player Plus. This is a bonus podcast. We're doing something totally different tonight. We're doing something we haven't done in a very, very long time.
What's that, Nick?
Somebody suggested actually that Brad should open this podcast with the. Do you remember how you used to open these, Brad?
Hey guys, welcome to the 4Player Podcast weekly top 5 video game podcast. Today our topic of discussion is, well, Crispy's going to introduce it.
Oh,
Oh
am
shit!
I?
Shots
Okay.
God,
am I? Okay, I'm doing it. Our topic today for this top 3 podcast, we made it top 3 because it's a big one and we need a lot of time to discuss every entry on the list, is top 3 dream projects, and I put dream in quotes because it's actually a nightmare. These are the holy grails of gaming that we will never play, the ones that will haunt us until our final days, and will hang over us like an albatross and make us really sad.
It's so funny how like we were trying to so first of all, let me just say this. Brad, you fucked up the intro. This is a top 3, like Crispy said. We used to do top 5s like way back in the day. I'm talking like 10 years ago. And people really enjoyed those, but we kind of stopped doing them. We're bringing it back. We're going to take it for a little test roll. We're going to see how it goes. If people really enjoy this. If people enjoy this, Nick, this is the maiden voyage.
If we're feeling it, if we do 3 and we're still feeling ourselves, what's to stop us from throwing out 2 more? Anything could happen tonight.
Oh, I'll be feeling myself.
I mean, I was more referring to it's a test in the sense that we wanted to see how our audience enjoys it and how much we enjoy doing it, because we haven't done it in a very long time. And if people enjoy it, then my goal is to maybe do one a month and kind of, you most often probably just replace a regular podcast kind of thing.
We're just getting out there. We're just trying it, taking it out and cutting it up.
If we continue doing this, we're gonna pull topics from our supporters on Twitch and Patreon. For this episode, we just decided we're gonna pick our own, and we decided to start with
a quick and easy one.
A quick and easy one. Our top 3 dream projects. And going into this,
these are games that we would create in dreams, right?
Yeah.
That's what
when I first read the topic,
Media Molecule game dreams.
Wow. It seems like everybody has approached this differently. So we picked this one. Like, Brad picked it because it would be easy. I picked it because it sounded fun. Crispy, it's like a nightmare. So we're gonna see how this goes. So the way this used to work, we just go around. We're gonna start. These aren't necessarily presented in any particular order unless you want them to. But we've picked 3 games, picked 3 concepts, ideas, pitches, whatever you want to call them. We're gonna go around. We're gonna talk about them. We're gonna do one at a time, and until we've all said 3, and then we'll throw out some honorable mentions. Yeah, what's up, Brad?
Before we start, I want to say, back when we were doing top 5 podcasts all the time, people were really into it, and we were always soliciting for top 5 ideas. The one that would pop up the most would be, hey, you should do top 5 top 5s. People loved that joke, and they're always like, you should do top 5 top 5s. And one day I constructed the top 5 top 5s in my head, and I was gonna do it, but shit happened and I never did it. All I remember from that list is 2 of them. One of my top 5 top 5s was going to be that top 5 top 5 that I was recording at the moment. And another one was going to be the movie Top 5 with Chris Rock. You ever seen that movie Top 5?
No. I've never even heard of that.
Chris Rock and Rosario Dawson. It's not bad. I mean, it was good enough to make my list. The rest was going to be stupid shit like that. But I was going to give people what they wanted, which was stupidity.
Well, I guess telling a story about it is kind of close to actually doing it. So thank you for letting us know.
Maybe one day we'll do our top 3 top 3s.
Let the joke live on. Okay,
Why not our
so
top 10 top 10s?
you could do anything. Top sevens, our top sevens. You could just
Well, we don't have any top
never.
7s. We do have top 10s.
You know,
People were immediate. So first of all, I would say this: the reaction in Discord when we told people we were considering doing this is pretty positive. And the first when I said we were going to switch to a top three, which we made that decision because we don't want to be here for 4 hours, and I feel like it would be if we each picked five because we're all very long winded. The immediate thought was y'all missed a great opportunity to do four because you're 4-player
yeah,
podcast.
we should have done 4.
But then people be like,
four.
you got 5 people doing top 4. Like it's just it don't work. So
Well,
here we are. What, Brad?
what are y'all, 5-player podcast? I wouldn't worry too much about that. But anyways, the tweet was made, so I think we're officially 3 now.
Yeah, for now, we're gonna
Tweet
feel
as
it out.
well.
This is like I said, this is a maiden voyage. We haven't done this in a very long time. This could be chaos. This could be great. I have no idea what happens. But
I
we're gonna
wasn't
give it a shot.
around when y'all were doing these top 5.
I know
episodes.
These
so-
actually predates. I mean, I feel like the last time we did this, I don't even know if Nolan was around yet. It's hard.
I
it's
might
hard
have
to
been
remember.
around for like one.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
of my memories of the top 5 podcast was me, Brad, and David, and occasionally Travis, if we could get him to show up. So that was back when we were recording in David's apartment. So it's been a very long time. This came to mind for me because I was listening to another podcast and they were doing something. I was like, oh man, we used to do this. This was fun. So here we are. We're just gonna see what happens. So the topic tonight: top 5 dream projects. I thought that was pretty self-explanatory, but just in case you're unclear on the subject, Brad, would you like to explain it?
Well,
I mean, Crispy already gave. So it's funny because there's like a dichotomy. Like
the
there's like
the
a positive
seed
and a negative way to look at this.
for this idea has come from just podcast conversations are from like, oh, this game's cool, but wouldn't it be awesome if like this developer did the combat system or something, and then the combat wouldn't be completely fucking shit? Just like stupid ideas, but then you start putting them in together in your head and you're like, oh, what if this person did the soundtrack? And oh man, this art style, just bullshit. Top 3 bullshit dream ideas.
So I think we all had a different approach.
Is all about.
I don't know who's going to start. We didn't really discuss this beforehand. Brad, do you want to start off?
I think Crispy wanted to go first. Unless no.
This fucking troll. First of all, technically speaking, Crispy's never done a top 5 podcast, so at the very least, you should
That
go
can't be
because
true.
you've done it before. I mean,
Is that true?
I don't know. I mean, it definitely predates you being on this show. We haven't done this in like
okay.
10,
We've
12
definitely
years,
listed
maybe?
things before with
Okay.
Crispy.
That's
But
Well, yeah. I mean, I grasped the concept pretty quickly. I feel like.
I mean,
I
if
guess
you
I
want to
can go
start us
first.
off, Crispy, by all
unless
means, I'm not
Crispy
gonna
wants to
stop
go
you.
first.
Okay. Fine, I'll go first. Whatever.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, so just to explain how I'm going to handle my section tonight, I have written down 15 pitches that I think are all kind of like impossible bucket list items. Some of them are sequels to games that really exist. Some of them themselves are actual games that exist that I will never get to play. Some of them are complete made up like ideas, and some of them are like literally just like a 4 or 5 word prompt that I just think there's something there.
Now
He's got elevator
15
pitches.
is divisible by 3. So if you can rattle off 5, and then we'll come back to
No.
it when we do number 2 and then number 1.
No, I think we just
That's
choose
not
a number.
bad. If
And then
if you guys
no.
want to pick one out of the first 5. I mean, it's not
13.
bad.
What's number 13?
Oh yeah. Okay, so 13 is probably the least cohesive idea I have. It's just called "I'm going to come into your home." I'm going to come into your home, and this is kind of based on the idea, like,
Can you rephrase
Okay.
that? Like, I'm gonna enter
Yeah,
your home,
please.
or
Spell it for
right?
us.
No,
That's
but
a lot
like,
better,
it,
but-
like part of the wording, like it's supposed to throw you off. Like not necessarily like in a sexual way, but it's supposed to be very like jarring. Like if somebody's just like getting in your face and just saying, "I'm going to come into your home," like you should feel very threatened, right? And the
Mhm.
idea of
do.
like
I do feel very threatened.
the idea of violating a safe space is kind of like what's going on here. And I was just thinking of like there's an alt comedian content creator who does stuff I really like named Alan Resnick, and for some reason he's done in a couple different things he's either had the line or had a reference to just like coming into your home and like being really threatening about it, right? And that like feeling of like, oh fuck, like this is really unsafe, or like I don't know what you're doing, like this is really alien, and this is like the one place in the world that I feel safe, and now you're here, kind of thing.
So it's a horror game.
I
Yeah, a reverse
guess
horror game.
it's also just Hello Neighbor or whatever that like kids game
I was
was.
gonna say, what's
But
the
like
perspective? Are you coming into the home, or are you the person that's being cummed into?
it's
The home.
like sure. I mean, it's probably just like Friday the 13th or like Dead by Daylight or something like that, where it's just like
Oh, it's the
one
snake.
player is this like invader who's just like invading your space, and I don't know what you do about it. I don't know that you can do anything about it. I don't know that there's even a game there. It's just this idea was like
I'm gonna
there's
be
something
honest.
about it. This is
I'm gonna be honest.
this is the why this is like the most out there one I think I have. This is the least developed idea I have, but there was something about the emotional core of like home invasion that like really got to me.
Okay.
Like
This-
you know what, there was an indie game a while ago that was about like going on the dark web, and like the fail condition for the game was that like people on the dark web could track your real world location, and then like you'd be playing, so like in the game you're in a home in the middle of the night on a computer, and you have to like interact with the computer, but you also have to like look around because there will be like people who break into the house and kidnap you, and it's like really fucking
Five Nights
scary.
a little bit.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
really
be honest,
fucking
Crispy.
scary.
There is something there that what you just presented was like an elevator pitch, and I love it because I had the way you chose to phrase it was like elicited a very visceral reaction. And I feel like if you stuck with it and you thought about it for a good long time, you could probably flesh that out into something magical.
Jason
Maybe.
Rohrer
Why'd you
developed a
think-
game called
flesh
The
that
Castle Doctrine, like probably over a decade ago, and I think it like dealt with some of this shit. You might want to look into that if it truly
That's-
fascinates you.
It fascinates me from the aspect of like how quickly you can flip that switch in most people, of just like you
Yeah.
just like, and it made me think of like that Fatal Frame game and which
Oh,
one,
Fatal Frame
Silent Hill,
3.
The Room, like all these like horror games, how we talk a lot about how horror games that have like these safe spaces that are then subverted later on in the game, like that moment, that trick, that like emotional impact is kind of what I'm trying to get at. I just don't know what the game around it is, but if I made a game or played a game that could make me feel that way in like a satisfying way, I think it would be really special, you know?
I think that was an amazing way to kick this off, and I also want to point out that I'm keeping track of everybody's list so I can kind of recap this at the end. So right now, the spreadsheet that I have says literally, "I'm going to come into your home." That's all it says. So
If you like
it's wonderful.
look up something on YouTube if you kind of want to get an idea of where I'm coming from. There's what is it called?
Draw dogs.
Please enter. Look up "May I Please Enter" on YouTube and watch that. That's
These
where
all
my
sound
head
very
was at with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
May I
a
please enter?
yeah, it was an Adult Swim short done by Alan Resnick, and it's kind of like the beginning of it is kind of like that, like what is going on here vibe, you know? So
Man, suddenly
but
I
it's
am.
great. Don't worry. It's not like super scary or anything. It's kind of funny and
Nolan?
weird, and a lot of people who watch it are probably going to be like, this is stupid,
Nolan?
because maybe it is. But that's mine.
Cool. I'm suddenly very
Nolan's
excited
been raising his
for
hand.
Crispy's next choice. What's up, Nolan?
Well, you know, I was because one of the games that I had kind of thought about is not the exact same, but it's kind of similar in the sense that it could be potentially multiplayer and one person's kind of. And actually, if we're good to move on to another game, I can.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the ones I thought of was something like maybe along the lines of "You've Been Served," and like it could be multiplayer. But you would potentially play as like a process server. It's like you're trying to serve someone papers, But think almost like
Oh.
Assassin's Creed style, like where other people are trying to avoid having paper served to them. And so you're maybe like disguising yourself and trying to hide from the person who's trying to serve you papers. And
Oh, I
so
like.
you're running around a city, but you're also trying to disguise yourself because you don't want to, obviously look like a process server. And you're trying to get them to say who they are, because until they say who they are, they can't be served. They have to kind of do the whole like admission. They're like, "Oh, I'm confirming that I am this person."
I
Were
got
you
the
at all
title.
inspired?
I got the
Were you
title.
all wait, real quick? Were you at all inspired by the story about who was it that was served papers while they were on stage at presenting? They were presenting an
Cam?
award. Was that?
What was her name?
I haven't heard about this.
That was just depressing.
It was depressing, but I was like, I wonder if that's what kind of like
Yeah,
got
she was
into
served her
something, but I guess
divorce
not.
papers like
You
while
can-
she was on stage.
You
Yeah.
can call it papers. No, thank you.
So that's the thing, Brad. And I literally have in quotations, "You've been served," in quotations,
Olivia Wilde.
"reverse papers, please."
You know what's
Is it-
interesting about that
Mhm.
is if you're thinking at it from a gameplay perspective, you got to have an environment where like people are just giving their name out a lot for a lot of different
Exactly.
reasons. So
Like
like
you're
what
at
are the
Starbucks.
like what is this world that everyone's inhabiting where like they're always having to identify themselves, but like they don't want to identify themselves to the one person, you know?
Mhm.
Like, what if it's like a dystopian future where there's like fucking like fascist military checkpoints everywhere and like I don't know. That's weird. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
that's how like the original
like-
concept was how I kind of got here was I was thinking about games I love and how I could take a game I love and kind of change it or make a different style game. And so yeah, Brad, like you said, Papers, Please. I just had a big list of games that I love, and Papers, Please was one of them. And so then I was kind of going down my list and I was saying, okay, what could I do with Papers, Please? And I swapped it. But then I was thinking, yeah, like you have this thing. So it's like, oh, you, the player, maybe you're given a list of tasks that you have to accomplish. And not the one doing the serving, the one being served. So, but you have to do a bunch of things. So maybe it's like, oh, you have to get a hot dog from a hot dog vendor, and you go to the hot dog vendor, and they're like, oh, what's your order? And you order, and they're like, all right, what's your name for the order? And you have to tell them, and then instead of like pulling out a hot dog, they pull out like papers or something like that. So it's all about you having to like kind of get around. Not, I don't know. So it's like a thought, like because maybe potentially because like, and once again, I'm mixing games, so kind of Spy Party-esque. Like that your opponent has to do a bunch of different things.
A little
You
Hitman
know
in
what
there.
they have to do, but you don't necessarily know when they're going to be doing it.
It's amazing to think of process server as like a fucking secret job that people have on top of their normal daily lives so that nobody knows who they are. Like you really could go to Starbucks, order a coffee, they ask you what your name is, and they're just like, I gotcha. Like I do this on the side. Like,
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it.
All right, but so that was one of mine.
That's a great first choice.
Dang,
I'm loving the approach. to
Already, this episode is like, at like game developers conference, they have those panels where you're like, you pitch an indie game, and it's like, damn, that's not how I approach the list at all. But I have ideas like that. But maybe I'll go next.
Yeah, go next. Go for it.
Mine are like, they're like, let's be honest, I'm a simple person. I like what I like, so a lot of them are going to be based on things I already like. They're like dream IP developer matchups and stuff. Or
that's the way I approached it as well.
Yeah.
So I first got the idea of like, well, what's my favorite thing? It's like, basically Monster Hunter, right? And I started thinking about, I want underwater swimming from like the old Monster Hunter games back. And, if we're going to do Monster Hunter World, let's do an entire like open world where you're traversing. Maybe you fly on a basil geese over to, that biome that's off in the distance or whatever. Right.
Right.
Then I was like, but that's just Monster Hunter with a lot more travel. Let's get crazy. You know what sucks? Everything about The Witcher, outside of like the lore and the characters and the writing and the side quests, the setup, right? But when it comes down to like fighting monsters and preparation and combat, that stuff is like only good on paper. It's not good. It's not fun to do in the game. Honestly, it's where I think they kind of dropped the ball. I used to think about The Witcher like, oh, this combat fucking sucks. What if it was like Dragon's Dogma combat or something? It would be amazing, right? But then I thought, no, like Monster Hunter is already a Witcher game, and Witcher's already like a Monster Hunter game. Just mash the two together, right? And now you're like hunting monsters, you're getting the materials, you're crafting. The combat is like Monster Hunter, right? But now you have so much like setup and lore and story, like that builds up these monsters into being these like, legendary creatures. So you have this now you have a Monster Hunter game with like amazing story, and you fill out this world with all these side quests, but instead of a side quest, you're hearing, a rumor of this weird thing that ends up being a puke, and I'm like, that's like the greatest thing ever. So
Who
my
develops
dream
this?
game.
But like,
Well,
also,
not CD Projekt Red. Well, no, it's a combination effort, right? You have Capcom do all
Who
like the
develops?
systems and stuff because they know how to make like a good combat system. They know how to make systems that are like really addictive, right? You really want to go find another puke, right? But all the lore and the setup and like the buildup of the world is CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red from like 8 years ago or whatever. I don't know about current CD Projekt Red, right? It's my dream, so I could time travel, right? Yeah, I went Witcher 3 top of their game, CD Projekt Red to give context to all those hunts, right? And so they don't feel like just mindless, like hunting, and maybe you can throw out Capcom stupid like, how every Monster Hunter story is just about colonialism. That stuff sucks, right? Give me the Witcher, everything good about the Witcher with everything good about Monster Hunter, and make the perfect game. Well, or the third perfect game.
I'm starting to see what Crispy's talking about. This is that depression kicking in.
Doesn't it suck that we're never gonna play these games? I want to play that process server game so bad. Like,
do you ever wake up from a really good dream and then you're just sad? That's just part of it. That's just part of it. That's part of the topic. The sadness is inherently part of dream games.
No, it's just part of being human, everybody. It's just part of being human. All right, Chris Davis.
Also,
next?
wait. Then Yennefer shows up, right? Teledildonics, right? You ever heard of teledildonics?
Teledildonics.
Just assume that all of my dream games involve teledildonics, and
in some respect.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Okay, I'm not writing that down. Okay, Chris Davis.
Yeah, you're not writing that down, but I'm going to put that in the tags for the YouTube video.
Brad wants to fuck a puke.
Confirmed.
I want to fuck Yennefer on top of a puke.
Well, Brad, hold on. Does Crispy's? I mean, are all of these? Does Crispy's "I'm Coming in Your House" featuring teledildonics?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah. I don't like the implication of that.
Like it's basically Shrek 4D. So you get the spray in your face.
No, I don't want it.
Oh my God, it's getting out of hand. All right, Chris Davis, rein it back in.
Okay, my number 3 pick is not one that is probably going to be received by all that well, but it's kind of something that appeals to me.
Okay.
And going off what Brad was doing and what Nick said he was going to do is that my dream projects are more licensed tie-ins and just like visions of how those properties could be properly used. So for my number 3, I'm a very big fan of XCOM. I have after Firaxis got a hold of the license and started putting out their games, I kind of fell in love with it. I have played all the XCOM games that have come out since then. And I've even started wanting to dabble into like I bought Phoenix Point the other day because number one, it was $7, but also because it's from the guys that made XCOM. By
the way, one of the pitches we've had so far from our supporters for a potential top 5. I'll look it up.
This was my idea. I'm taking credit for it.
Now I can't tell if Brad's just stealing credit from someone else or whatever. But the point is, somebody suggested top 5 games that should just be XCOM.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I think Chris Davis could easily pull that list off. But anyway,
yeah, continue. I probably could. But tying into that, a TV show that I really enjoyed was Stargate SG-1.
I was hoping he'd say Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers. I have no idea what that is.
I guess.
Yeah, put away your
Come
AARP
on.
card. So Stargate was based on a film that came out with Kurt Russell and what's his name? The guy from the Blacklist, and he played
Kratos.
Ultron in Avengers 2.
James Spader,
James Spader. Yeah, James Spader and Kurt Russell playing opposite one another.
the guy from Crash.
Okay.
He derailed that.
Sorry, I'm joking.
Yeah, you did. So, for those who aren't aware, Stargate is a franchise about the concept of the pyramids and early human civilization was built up by aliens, and there was a rebellion on Earth thousands of years
Sounds like
ago.
Assassin's Creed.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, it's
So
not.
it
Assassin's
sounds like
Creed.
Assassin's Creed.
No, it's not. No, have you never seen the original Stargate?
I'm not, but I'm now
It is a
picturing
really
Assassin's Creed.
fun film. It's
I
really
think I
good.
think it is exactly your kind of science fiction, Nick.
You would like. Okay, so basic premise is
Okay.
that thousands of years later, after humans have rebelled and they got the aliens to leave Earth, the military discovers a interstellar gateway object that allows instantaneous transportation to other worlds in the galaxy and even beyond, in an entire network of stargates that were used to transport slaves, human slaves. So in the movie, it's their first time going through the gate, and it's James Spader, learning about this whole other planet and this other civilization of humans that have survived since then. It's a real fun action adventure movie. They did a sequel series called Stargate SG-1 that starred Richard Dean Anderson, MacGyver, if you remember that name. And it went on
Who
for
has
like
the RP card?
it went on for like 10 fucking seasons between
Hold on, Chris
1999
Davis.
to
If you're so
2008.
smart, what's MacGyver's first name?
John.
I don't know.
It starts with an H. I
Not
think.
even a
Dan,
real
Dan
fan.
MacGyver.
Not
John,
even
I don't
a real
remember.
It'd be
fan.
John.
It's not John MacGyver.
Oh no, it's like
MacGyver.
It's a
Magnus or
Scottish
something.
name.
Yeah, it's like McGuinness or
Haggis,
Magnus
I think,
or
or something like that. I
what
don't
is
know.
it? Angus?
No, there
Hey,
you go,
Might,
Crispy.
actually, it might be
Chris-
Angus.
Is it Angus
Crispy had
MacGyver?
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah, yeah.
okay. All right.
You're
okay.
literally still talking about.
I
the
know,
IP.
we haven't even like gotten to his game yet.
Okay. So Stargate SG-1 was a continuation of that story, like a year later, and it had an involving plot that went all over the place, and you had a bunch of fun adventures. So my idea was that you take the Stargate franchise and you give it the XCOM turn-based tactics and level randomization element to it, and you just go have fun. Because the whole the
Are you
cool
wanting
thing about
Firaxis to do this?
well, I mean, Firaxis would be awesome. I think there's probably plenty of developers out there that could do it, because turn-based tactics, the model has been made. It's called XCOM 2012.
Right.
You just build off of that.
But Firaxis would be the tent pole.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
So your base of operations would be the mountain where you have your base of operations with the Stargate, and you're building out your facilities and stuff like that, and building up your troops. But again, the cool thing about the Stargate franchise is that every time they go through the gate, they can completely create a whole new world with rules and everything like that. It's one of those like writing prompts that gives sci-fi writers just such room to have fun, and they had a lot of fun writing stuff.
Blend some No Man's Sky, where it's like every time you go through a Stargate, all of a sudden it randomly creates, like randomly generates a new
Well, that's
planet,
part of
that
it.
kind of thing.
I mean, that's part of it. But again, playing into the background story of Stargate is that all of human civilization and all of human mythology is based on aliens. So as they're going through the series in Stargate, they're meeting aliens that were actually gods on Earth, like Thor and Egyptian gods, Anubis, and everything like that. And they have a lot of fun with that, because they spend a lot of time exploring who could this character be, what was their actual background story in intergalactic politics, what was going on with them. And they have a lot of fun with that. But they build up they made 3 fucking TV shows out of this one property that ran for 15 years. And it was a lot of fun.
Has there ever been a Stargate SG-1 video game at this point, or is
there have been attempts? There actually is. Okay, this is
Chris
out
Davis,
of fucking.
You got to be
nowhere.
careful. We're not going down rabbit holes here.
I'm not. There have been.
You let him talk about Stargate, Nick.
You brought this on yourself, okay?
No. I did not bring this on myself. Okay,
no, Nick,
sorry.
you will appreciate this. Okay, there have
Joe
been
Mama in chat says one failed PC game. You can leave it at that.
There was a failed PC game. There was a 16-bit side scroller based on the film. But recently, there was another Stargate game that is heavily based on Mimimi's stealth-based tactics games, like
Desperados
and Blades of the Shogun. So
sorry, I'm not going to ask any more
they're
questions.
stealing basically most of the UI and design from those games and making it into a Stargate game. I don't agree with that for what this could be, but I will not say no to another Stargate game. So,
all right, there we go.
That's what I want out of a Stargate
SG-1.
game. I think you could make a really fucking cool game out of that.
There we go. I'm sold. All right, and maybe I should, according to Crispy, maybe I should watch Stargate. All right. My first choice. So my approach to this was very similar to Brad, but I feel like there's a lot. My brain immediately jumped to a lot of obvious choices, so I intentionally kind of tried to avoid those. But there was also
This is
a lot
your
of
top
games that
three, Nick.
No,
If you don't mention
I
them
know.
now, they're never gonna happen.
I'm gonna kind of drop them when we do like honorable mentions later. I'll just throw them out there. But like, I think there are more interesting choices that appeal to me for different reasons. But I try to think of games that I love for one reason or another that maybe didn't get off the ground or didn't pan out, but could have, that were like the seeds of like really interesting games that could have been improved upon in a sequel that we'll probably never get. And the first thing that came to mind was LA Noire. I absolutely adore LA Noire for what it was trying to do, and I'm not sure where it went wrong.
Well, where it went wrong was that it didn't end after Homicide.
That's a common complaint, and I do think there's obviously room. I think they could find a studio, and I'm not trying to throw what's the name of that studio that did LA Noire?
Team Bondi.
God. Tim Bondi. I'm not trying to throw Team Bondi under the bus here, but like there's probably teams out there that could have maybe written a more cohesive or a better, more satisfying story. But like LA Noire has one of the coolest just worlds and atmospheres and stuff, and there was a lot of people liked to complain about the world being kind of empty and lifeless or whatever, or just not being lifeless, but there's nothing to do in the world of LA Noire except from drive from the police station to the various crime scenes, and that's where it unfolds. And I thought of there's one other studio that does this, and I think kind of gets away with it. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the team I would want to do an LA Noire 2 if it were to happen, but I think about Hangar 13, who did Mafia 3, most recently Mafia 1 Definitive Edition, which I thought was excellent.
Yeah,
but it did very similar stuff. Like it had an open world that was pretty much there as a backdrop to just kind of like sell the atmosphere. And I didn't see a lot of people throwing complaints at that game, because the stuff that it did when you were actually on the missions and stuff was thrilling. So it was cool to have that backdrop, that atmosphere and stuff when you're going. That's that connective tissue between the missions. So I don't necessarily think the approach to fixing LA Noire is to suddenly populate the open world with a bunch of, quests that, checklist items or whatever, like a lot of modern open world games do. I'm perfectly fine with them taking kind of that same approach. I think the things that I want to see them improve upon are obviously fixing the interrogation system a little bit, like the dialogue, making it flow better. I think that was way ahead of its time, and if someone were to attempt that now, there's probably any number of studios who could probably attempt that now, especially having learned from what went wrong with the first one, and make that better. But I'm also just thinking about like some of my favorite things about games. A lot of adventure games have been like crime scene investigation, and I think back to Monolith, who did Condemned, especially Condemned 2, where they really started to kind of lean into the like trying to find evidence at a crime scene and stuff, and like that stuff was really really cool. Again, could be fleshed out further, but like if they made an LA, if let's just say Monolith were to take on LA Noir and really hone in on fixing that aspect. I mean, maybe not the most obvious choice, and there's probably several other studios. I mean, honestly, Rockstar North could do like the main Rockstar studio, because that is a Rockstar property. I think Rockstar still owns the IP. I could be wrong on that, but Rockstar North could probably go and do LA Noir 2 and do it better. But I think it would kind of fall right into the Rockstar formula, and it would be maybe a little uninspired. Like I would love to see someone take LA Noir and just kind of focus on fixing the things that they were already trying to do, because it had so much potential. So
You mean you don't like it when you interrogate people and ask questions like, "You fuck young boys, Valdez"?
I mean, the world has been gifted with that meme. But man, you know, LA Noir was it was so cool. I still want to go back and replay that game.
It had an interesting concept. The whole like having to read their face and stuff like that. It's just everything was so exaggerated.
Yeah.
That it's like I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then them like looking around, like it was
silly.
kind of ahead of its time.
There are other ways that
Ironically.
I don't think have to be so what do you call it? Just
like emotive, like
yeah, you don't have to be reading
exaggerated.
people's facial expressions. There are other ways to
Yeah.
communicate that stuff and have you make decisions. But
All sorts of body
I don't know.
language, just like crossing your
Yeah.
arms or just looking away or things
Oh,
like that.
okay, hold on. I'm gonna go definitely and say a lot of that's bullshit, Chris Davis, in the real
Well,
world.
no. But like in terms of like game logic and expressing that idea to the player,
I don't even care if they want to just express those same concepts with like dialogue on the screen. There are interesting ways you could do that and make it more believable. Because for me, the important thing was the world, the atmosphere, and just kind of the narrative that drives you through it. It's great. You know what? Monolith is kind of a strange choice. I'd say Hangar 13 is also kind of a strange choice, but after playing Definitive Edition of Mafia, I could totally see Hangar 13 taking a stab at this. So I'm just going to say Hangar 13.
if I may suggest, I think like the biggest failing of LA Noir, I mean, other than the back half of the story just not working for me personally, but like the initial part of that game where you were trying to become a detective and the basic police work that you were
I
doing,
forgot that was even part of it, to be honest.
that really just did not translate to the rest of the game. The rest of the game was just you going on cases from point A to point B and doing stuff. Whereas I think the game would really benefit from allowing you to just go out into the world and solve crimes as they happen. You know, just random events that happen.
But then you run the risk. You know, we're going in a rabbit hole. But you're not wrong. I could probably talk an entire podcast about fixing LA Noir. We're not going to do that tonight, though. Let's come back around to our second choice from Crispy.
Oh shit!
Brad, throw another random number.
Number 3.
Oh shit!
No, just pick one, Crispy. That you
Okay,
like.
no, I'll do number 3. Number 3 is okay. Number 3 is maybe a little more in the original spirit of the question. For number 3, I have Star Trek Online, but the original version. So I guess this would be back in like 2007,
Something like that.
maybe 2006. They first announced Star Trek Online, the MMORPG based on the franchise Star Trek, which had a kind of notoriously troubled development. It went through at least 2 different studios before a game called Star Trek Online came out. The original studio that was working on it, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, I don't even think they exist anymore, but they had a pretty ambitious pitch, especially for the time. And I like my dream version would be to run with that and like go even farther. So basically, what I think would be really cool is a completely unfeasible MMORPG where everybody is a Starfleet officer, unlike the actual game where everybody's a captain. Everybody has their own specializations, their own departments. You know, you are a security officer, you are a helmsman, you are a science officer, right? And your guild or whatever, your clan, acts as your ship. So you guys have one ship, and you guys all have to operate it.
Okay.
So you go on missions where you have to have at least like a bridge crew, which would mean you'd have to have all players on at the same time working together, and
Right.
that's where where it starts, where it hits reality, it maybe is less feasible. But like, I don't care about that. I think it would be amazing to have that like kind of crew teamwork experience that is like the core of every episode of Star Trek,
That
right?
would be really cool. I'm
And
not even like the biggest Star Trek fan, but like that does sound really cool.
it would be amazing. I mean,
am I allowed to be a red shirt guy who just does this on a wall?
I mean, yeah, probably, right? I think if you really got into it, it would be like the idea of having like huge guilds, where it's like this guild might have 300 members, which means like, yeah, they might have a bunch. Like when you're a newbie, they're like, you're an engineer, like you're gonna be the guy that has to like turn knobs down in engineering, and we'll work you up. Um, which I don't, obviously
make it
that
a
means
sim.
that means there's a huge variance in like everybody's play experience and like how much fun individual people are having. So I don't know if you would do that or just restrict it to like bridge crew, but like there is something compelling about the idea that of progressing through the ranking system of a starship.
Right.
I used to, like, back in college, and even before that, I used to like check out like one of the oldest sort of like online text only RP communities are Star Trek RP communities, right? Like back when like they were email chains in like 1997,
Yeah.
and they always are based around that same premise of like, you're on a ship, there's a bunch of other players who run that ship, and like one player who's been here for a long time is the captain, you're the new guy, you're like a junior engineer,
Yeah.
like, and you do these like, it's just weird dumb text role play. But that idea was always core to every role play experience, the idea of the crew in the ship, so I think that it's vital for that to be part of a Star Trek online experience. The way the game that exists, uh the form that it takes now, is one where your player is the captain, and like you have a bunch of pets that like are your NPC crew. So
Yeah.
you've got one ship that you control. So everyone in the game is a captain. Everyone has their own ship. Everyone has their own crew, and it's just kind of like whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
fun and it's a cool idea, and that game could be great as it exists. But like something about that like everybody on the bridge, like I got a taste of it with that Star Trek VR game, right? Where it's 4 people on a bridge, like doing missions, but that was very simple, very basic. It had like a handful of missions, and it didn't have that like exploratory factor to it, right?
Right.
It's like an MMO where you can go, like, say, you go anywhere in the alpha and beta quadrant. You can encounter pretty much anybody from like any of the series that take place in that half of the galaxy. You run into, you guys can get into fights. You can get into exploratory missions. You can make first contact with undiscovered worlds. Like that is what you need. That is the sauce. And think of this: you have a PvP that is basically like Dreadnought, but your team is just operating one ship instead of everybody operating their own capital ships. Think about that.
Can
That's
I?
pretty cool. Sorry, real quick. This is gonna sound
You
super
described
silly.
Star Citizen.
This is gonna
Yeah,
sound
well,
super.
yeah. I mean, this I guess is in a way like kind of what Star Citizen. Well, but Star Citizen
Isn't real.
is still, yeah. I mean,
No,
it's
it
I
exists.
mean, it's
Just not.
real, but it's
Yeah.
just not that at all, and it's also kind of fucking weird. But that's still so much more like I would expect the biggest kind of ship you'd be piloting in Star Citizen would be like, I don't know, like 4 people, like maybe
Yeah.
operating it, which that's fine. I'm talking about.
I mean, they've got them to where you're piloting like frigates at this point. You can buy fucking frigates for like $2,500.
How many people does it cost to operate one of those?
I mean, what I have very briefly read suggested like 6 to 8 people.
Yeah, I guess
Real
that's,
quick.
I don't know.
What?
I don't
Here's
think, honestly, I don't think Star Citizen is the answer to what I'm pitching.
No, it's
here.
not.
I don't think it
let me
is.
Let me tell you, this is the strangest association I'm going to make tonight, probably. But like what you described, I feel like I got a very brief taste of kind of just like the special sauce you're talking about when we used to play Space Team at PAX.
Space Team, yeah. Yeah. Space Team has that like that chaos, you know, that like
I was
it's
thinking
it's
like
about
Space Team or Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time.
Right.
Yeah.
There is that sense of like you need to coordinate to get through, but like also not have like the chaos of it be the main point. Like you actually want to like do cool stuff. You want to feel like, oh, we're like fighting a bunch of Klingon bird of preys, you know, and we came out of it on the other side because we're good at our jobs, not because we got lucky. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Cool.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
my
stuff.
thought about what you want to do there, because you're concerned about having dozens, if not hundreds, of players on a single ship, and just having people just have very mundane jobs that they can't do much with. I think that would really turn off a lot of people. What
Well,
if
I know, and that's what I'm saying. That's like kind
yeah,
of
that's a challenge
You
to address.
would have to find a way around that, or you'd have to find a way to make that rewarding. But we're
Or
not. But I will
withers.
say this reminder: we're not.
Well-
We don't need to go into
No,
like.
Well, I want
the
to hear. I want to hear a
weeds.
suggestion.
We're
I wanna
also
hear-
50 minutes into this podcast.
Hang on.
and we're
Hang
one
on.
out
I want to
of-
hear. I want to hear what Chris Davis has to say.
I'm a Trekkie fan too. But
Sure.
I'm just curious, like, would it maybe be better if instead of it being like hundreds of players or dozens of players to a ship, it's a team of 8 to 10 people, mostly bridge crew, per ship, and the clans themselves are fleets of ships of teams.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that too. And I think that is. I think at some point, if you were ever even going to try this, you would definitely cut back to that scale at a certain point, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to have
Right.
200 crewmen who like maybe don't have anything to do, or like. But the other thought I had is like, what if I don't know, like maybe you could do something cool with that though. Like maybe having that many people on a ship could be cool because like the crewmen are all going on away missions. So you're basically just playing like a different game, you know? Like
Yeah.
like when you're a crewman, you are spending a lot of time in shuttles, in transporters, like going to alien worlds, dealing with shit, like dealing with low level stuff, and then like as you rank
Grunt
up, it
work.
becomes more and more of like a management sim, like more of a 4X game instead of like whatever adventure game you were playing
Sitting
200
in the
hours
chair,
ago, you
giving
know?
orders, that kind of thing.
Right. So I don't know. I think there is a satisfying way to do it, but I also think that what Chris Davis is saying also makes a lot of sense and would be very cool. And I think we're closer to something like that, right? Like maybe even something like
Let
Sea
him
of
water down your
Thieves.
dream.
No, but like it is like when you think of a Star Trek crew, when you think of the experience, like everyone wants to be bridge crew, right?
Yeah.
No one
Right.
wants to be. No one wants to be the red shirt or like
Nobody
the
wants
nurse
to be down
in
in a
sick bay.
Jeffrey's tube, like repairing a condo.
Right. Unless
I wanna
they're the
be
chief
down on
engineer
the,
and they're like saving the ship, you know? Like
I want to be down on the planet banging the aliens with teledildonics.
he would tell a Dildonic.
Bring it
Yeah.
back.
You would
Bring
not
it-
believe what kind of dildos they have in the 24th century.
Speaking of teledildonics, Nolan, what's your number 2 or your second pick?
I guess it could work with the second one I thought of, and once again, like I said, the way I approached this was just kind of finding games I loved and kind of mashing stuff together.
Right.
One of my favorite games of all time is Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Mm.
Another one of my favorite games of all time that also has to do with timing is Super Hot VR. So my thought
Yes.
was to combine Necrodancer
Oh,
and Super Hot.
shit.
Okay.
So instead of the enemies like moving when you move, it's all about rhythm and beats. And so you're moving and you have to move to the beat. And if you mess up, maybe the enemy gets like more advances and you have to, almost like bypass a turn. But the whole concept is it's based around like, so almost think of like, like kind of music, I'm thinking like, VR, like, like Beat Saber, like whatever, like, so think of it's like a rhythm based game, but in VR, and you're having to like dodge things and move
And
to the beat, and you're having to like kind of do that. So it's almost like I don't know. Like I don't like I didn't flesh that one out too much, but that's kind of like where I was going with it. Was
I
just
don't even know if you
combining
need to
those
flesh it
two.
out. Like that's pretty brilliant. I'm gonna be honest. I'd play the shit out. That sounds like it'd be exhausting though. But
Oh, no, for sure. It would you would play like one level like every other day because yes, it would be ridiculously exhausting with how much you'd be moving.
man, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I feel like the perfect VR actually makes everything better. You know,
Yeah.
anything we're talking about here tonight could also have like amazing VR support.
I would say that depending on what the game is, it can be hard to do in VR just because if you're
Oh, for
doing
sure.
too much movement, obviously that can be kind of like and like having to like having free movement can sometimes be difficult. So I think it's one of those things where depending on how it is, like like obviously we've had Star Trek games in VR and stuff like that that have been, to my knowledge,
That's
fairly
true.
good. I know a game,
Yeah.
but hey, that's more than any Necrodancer games in VR.
That's fair.
But it's just one of those things where I don't think everything could be perfect, like be enhanced by it. But I think those ones really work well together because Superhot is all about movement, and Necrodancer all about moving to a beat. So just combining those two concepts, I think would be fun.
I would be all over that. That's a good choice. Good choice. All right, Brad, what's your number 2?
Oh, well,
We define the order.
I pulled
following it.
something from further down my list for the sake of, is it the stuff I really want the most or just something I'd like to talk about here? So one from a little further down my list, I'll move it up to number 2. I think it's a game that realistically in our lifetime, I think we could actually see it. But this studio, they're really good at creating a space with a lot of detail, making it very accurate, and then putting like a serious and also goofy story in it. But what I want is Kiryu Goes West. I want a Yakuza game in America.
Oh,
How fucking
shit.
cool would that be? Instead of like the
Okay.
Japanese Yakuza, he's dealing with like the mob and shit and maybe fuck it, maybe put it in Texas, right? This is my dream, right? I want Kiryu in Texas. Give me a Yakuza game in Texas, right? Because you have, the serious crime story, right? Where the stakes are high and everyone's begging Kiryu to pick up a firearm, right? Because he's in fucking America. He's in Texas, right? This is the way we do things around here. And he's like, no. He refuses, right? Because, he's Kiryu. He doesn't shoot a gun. He beats people with his fists, right? And his feet, right? But then
Right.
you have all the goofy side stories, and I feel like it's a perfect fit. And I think the attention to detail that they're really good at would be exciting to see, like them take on like a Western town or city, because I don't know, it's kind of like how Earthbound is like a Japanese developer's like vision of like what America's like. I kind of want to see that from the perspectives of the Yakuza developer, right?
I feel like
Because
that would be almost unintentionally hilarious.
there would be so much attention to detail, but so many things would probably be so wrong. But that's kind of what I want out of it. That's why I want Kiryu to go west. I think, yeah, and because it's Texas. You know how a lot of other people view Texas who aren't from Texas, right? It's all cattle and cowboy hats and stuff, and Kiryu would be wearing it.
It's basically like City Slickers.
Yeah,
And
dude.
I feel like the closest approximation that would kind of be the most natural fit in the United States, like the most natural transition from Japan to the United States for this series would maybe be Las Vegas.
Fuck you, Nick. This is my dream. I want him to ride a horse. I want him to ride a
Texas would he
horse.
go? That would be interesting.
I want him.
Houston.
I want. It doesn't matter. Well, yeah, sure, but it's their take on Houston. They don't know what the fuck's in Houston, right? I want to go do karaoke, but I want it to be in some shitty Western dive bar, and people are throwing beer bottles at Kiryu as he's like singing his heart out. Like that shit that'd be amazing.
That does
But like,
sound
It definitely
pretty
exists
good.
in Houston.
the thing is, like, I feel like it's almost inevitable, right? I feel like the
don't know
Yakuza
about
team
that.
churns out so many fucking games, like so many games. They've made more Yakuza games than they've had years making Yakuza games, right?
You're not wrong.
And I feel like it's inevitable, right? They've done like like feudal Japan, right, a couple times, and they've kind of moved around to different places. In Japan, he's left Japan um, to go to he's been to like China and Korea, at least in cutscenes, right? I don't know. I feel like that conversation is going to come up eventually, and I think it could happen, right? Especially when they're desperate, maybe to recapture the Western audience. Maybe the hype of Yakuza Zero died down, and the games aren't doing as well in the West, in the West as before, right? And they kind of
Hey,
do another binary
it's not
domain, but
impossible.
this time they want to stay in the Yakuza series, and oh man.
It's not impossible to imagine. Like I'm thinking about Saints Row went west. You know what I mean? Which I thought was kind of a strange fit.
Did Saints Row go West?
Yeah, I mean, basically, right? I mean, doesn't the new one take place in like Arizona or
Oh,
or New Mexico or something,
It's not Las Vegas or
or not Las Vegas? Yeah, but you know, it was unexpected, and I think it ends up working, or at least it looks like it's going to work. We'll see, but yeah, and if they ever do it, they should absolutely call it Kiryu Goes West. That would be
well,
great.
it doesn't have to be Kiryu,
could be
right?
Majima.
But yeah, well, yeah, dude. I mean, he's probably already worn a cowboy hat.
Over here, he's just like imagine like getting all excited about this game. Again, there's the
Again,
depression.
I think it's
sinking
inevitable. I think 10 years from now we have a Yakuza game in the West somewhere.
Sounds like a hot dog bet if I've ever heard one. Chris Davis, what is your number 2 pick?
Okay. This won't be as exuberant as my Stargate one
I'll
because I
believe
had
it when
to
I hear it.
explain that because there's so few people these days that understand what Stargate is.
So
My
talking
number
about
2
Stargate.
pick is actually based on a game formula that came out very recently that I think just like with a palette swap and a little bit of level design, you could basically turn it into that.
Okay.
Ever since I was a kid, I've been a big fan of G.I. Joe. Always have. I got a ton of toys when I was a kid. I watched the Sunbow series to death. I wore out the VHS. I think I may even still have my old VHSs of some of
And
those
you still
episodes.
consider yourself a GI Joe fan?
Yes. Well, I mean,
Okay.
modern GI Joe with the live action films are all pieces of shit.
Right.
The one thing they've only ever come close on has been like Snake Eyes, but then they decide to make a Snake Eyes movie, and it's not that character's fucking story. So
So where's the what you mentioned the
mean,
game style?
the game, the franchise is GI Joe. The developer is Dice. And it makes perfect sense when you look at their Battlefield formula and what they built there.
Battlefield GI Joe with Battlefield, huh?
GI Joe with Battlefield, man.
You're time traveling to go get good dice, though, right?
Yeah, no, like pre 2017 Dice, preferably the teams that were working somewhere between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4 when the series probably was at its peak. That's the team I would have. But that being said, I would really want them to take a hard look at the work they put into Battlefront 2. Now, Battlefront 2, it launched and was not good at launch mainly because of bullshit microtransactions and a lot of gameplay problems. But what they had there for the ability to play as hero characters, it worked fairly well. You progress in the level, you earn points, you spend those points to play as hero characters. You briefly play as those hero characters, and you have a little bit of fun. And that's my foundation for what I think a Dice GI Joe game should be. It should be GI Joe versus Cobra, using the aesthetic of the classic 80s Sunbow cartoon series, where it's red lasers and blue lasers and all sorts of wacky characters and vehicle designs that are just designed to sell toys. And there were so many. But you could build a system where you play as like a Cobra Trooper or a GI Joe Grunt Trooper, just fighting each other, and based on your kill count and how you're doing your scores, you could unlock the ability to play as hero characters like you could be Cobra Commander, you could be Destro, you could be the Baroness. She could be Lady J, Scarlet, Flint, Duke.
Keep going.
Snake Eyes. I can keep going.
Keep going.
Man. Fucking
Go-
Sir
10 more,
Minotaur.
10 more.
There's
Could you
about
be-
5,000 names.
Could you be Fumbles? Does
Was
anybody
there
know
Fumbles? I don't remember that
Is-
character, but
Oh, the
Is,
fucking robot chicken sketch.
Yeah.
oh, okay. That must have been a joke character, but whatever. The point
I love
is-
that skit. It's so good.
The point is they have so many storylines and such a variety of ways they tried to sell you toys back then that it would be a great foundation for a variety of gameplay elements that would keep you coming back for more and more. You could have entire storylines based on the mass device or the weather dominator. Those could be entire fucking expansions that you could build off of.
Man, Chris Davis has a lot of GI Joe knowledge. I didn't even.
He's
know there
talking
was this
about
much-
my AARP card. What about you, Chris Davis? GI Joe. That shit my older brothers played with.
I mean, hey,
Damn.
what
Shots
can
fired.
I say,
Hey,
man?
I enjoy the pitch. I don't care much for GI Joe as a franchise, but I love the heart of this pitch, and I think it's a good match.
If you spend like even 5 minutes looking at an episode, which by the way, most of the series is actually up on YouTube, officially uploaded by Hasbro, so you can watch those episodes.
I'll start that tonight. Fuck it.
Yeah, sure. Also, they had
I'm
a
not.
really good.
That's a joke. I'm not doing that. But
They had a really fun movie that they put out right after Transformers. And they were going to do the same thing as in the Transformers movie where they killed Optimus Prime because they were going to kill off a bunch of the characters just so they could introduce
Spoiler
new
alert.
toys next year. So they were going to kill off the main character, Duke. But based on the reception of Transformers, they were like, okay, we can't like remove his death. We'll just say he's gone into a coma. And at the end, we'll say he's going to be okay.
they lost their nerve. Is what they did.
They lost their nerve. But hey, whatever. But
It is what it is.
there is just such there's such variety there, so many fun characters, and so many ways to do a lot of fun stuff that you've never seen in a dice game before. You've barely seen the movement level in oh my god, if they had the movement of fucking Titanfall in there, I would just fucking die. So,
All right, there we go.
The
G.I. Joe
Respawn
dice.
GI Joe
Oh.
dice. What's up, Brad?
Nothing.
Okay. Thank you, Chris Davis. My number 2 choice is going to be I'm gonna go with Daredevil as a franchise as a character that as a character that has not been like brought to life in a video game and has not been not in like
playable
not given its
sense.
own. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's playable in like Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff, right? Maybe Marvel. He's got to be in like a fighting
has he
game
ever
somewhere,
been
right?
in Marvel? Did they?
I don't know. But the
I
fact that
think
we don't
Marvel
even know
3 maybe.
the fact that we don't even know is weird. But like I'm thinking specifically about the way what Insomniac did with Spider-Man, and which I think is pretty incredible. And they announced a Wolverine game, which I'll play, but man, I'm just thinking about what could have been if they had gone a different route and picked a character like Daredevil. He's such a unique superhero, and
You wouldn't have to worry about graphics.
That's true.
it wouldn't be a first-person game, jackass. I don't know.
No,
but like,
the entire visual design will be that indie horror game I played 17 minutes of called Perception.
You know,
Maybe.
I think there's an opportunity to do something different with the visual design, right?
sure.
Like,
absolutely.
what if the whole thing is like, instead of that like darkness with like little bits of light coming out of it, it's more
Right.
of like colorful, like it's all like a symphony of color, kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like, I don't know, I
Like synesthesia.
Sure.
yeah, like I don't know, like
I don't think
Daredevil
that's the
running
kind of
around.
dark drama that Nick likes, though.
No, I
Well,
know, but like I think there's a way to do it without it being like
So personally
Goofy?
speaking,
Right.
and again, this is another situation where like I'm not entirely sure what studio would be the best fit. My mind jumps to
Miyamoto.
my mind jumped to Insomniac because like Spider-Man, Daredevil is already very much like an acrobatic type superhero. So like they've got that kind of shit down. And I wouldn't necessarily like. I think there's room to make a really unique. I think you could do two styles of gameplay with this character. Like, and I'm not sure where that transition would be, where you would go from third person to first person, and you would actually have to use his like skill set to navigate you know, combat scenarios, platforming, whatever. But then at the same time, when you're like out exploring in like the open world, you still get that sense of like third person action, acrobatic shit, and then transitioning into the like first person, how he sees the world type thing. I'm not sure how that would work. I think there's a way to do it, especially in the sense of like if you're trying to tell a story, which is very much why I loved Insomniac's take on Spider-Man, is because it was very story driven, very character centric, very emotional. Like I love all that shit. I think Daredevil is perfect for that. That's why I love the Netflix series so much. So I would love to see a studio like Insomniac take a stab at that character, but also make sure to incorporate his skill set, his powers, and how he sees the world. Because that's always an important thing, is how he sees the world.
Hey,
So finding a way to make sure at least part of the game is reflecting that would be important. And I like Crispy's idea of like, don't just rely on echolocation, make it
make it
vibrant
like
and
a
colorful.
colorful, impressionistic world.
Yeah.
Like it's not New York. It's a weird like Van Gogh-esque impressionistic image of New York because he's
See, that would be dope.
he's like like I don't know.
Also,
That'd be weird.
Drunken Merchant brings up a good
It
point.
would
in
be
chat.
weird, but it'd be awesome. Like
Think of Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice,
I
with
was about to
the,
say
Oh,
the
yeah.
audio. So like very, very in-depth audio and something obviously would be very important for a game like that.
There have-
Potentially, like the ability to hear like certain things and the way you hear things in the game makes a difference.
There have been indie action games that are like audio only,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
like
We played one of PAX, I remember that.
visuals, just
There
a
was a horror
controller
game
and
that was
audio.
completely audio only, which
What
was
was
really
that?
interesting.
Wasn't there like the Forgotten Swan or the Last Swan or something?
Unfinished
like
One?
Unfinished
Oh,
one.
Unfinished
The
Swan.
Unfinished
Yeah.
One. That's what it was. Something like that, but not just black and white.
That's cool. That's a cool take. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
tying
saying,
into that,
it's just it's such a cool character that has a lot of room for artistic interpretation. And if you layer that artistic interpretation on top of what Insomniac already does really well, it could be incredible. I'm not saying I'm not excited to play this Wolverine game for whatever the fuck it's going to be, but like, God, I think Daredevil would have been a much more inspired choice. But what can you do?
so
What's up,
tying
Staves?
into what you were saying about the visual interpretation of the world, I think you could go one step further. That'd be more pretty interesting. So, like a lot of the writing in the Netflix show and in the character, from my understand, is that there's a lot of like his frustration with the world and just having to deal with just like all the bullshit happening in Hell's Kitchen, New York. So,
Yes.
what if, like, based on the character's emotional state and
changes?
perception of the world, it visually changes the world around you.
That would be cool.
You have that same foundational look because he was a kid when he got blinded, so he knows what some of the world looks like. But you could take that and
But his emotions kind of paint it differently
Yes.
depending on how he's feeling. Yeah, that would be cool. I
Man,
like that.
this would be cool. It would be an even better Psycho Pirate game, though. I just gotta say.
Psycho Pirate. What is
Psycho
Psycho? You know what? I feel like that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down. But no,
Nick, can I do a quick, like, this is not one of my games, but it's kind of like a spin-off, but actually it has to do with Insomniac as well.
sure.
Just like a quick little, and I wouldn't even want this to be a game. I would almost want this to be like a, like a Lost Legacy or like a whatever, like a kind of like a mini thing that's
like a spin-off. Yeah.
yeah, so like a spin-off of Spider-Man from Insomniac, but it's like Pokemon Snap, and you're playing Peter Parker, and you're having to take photos for the Daily Planet.
yes,
And so you're
Spider-Man.
having to like take photos of like supervillains and Spider-Man yourself. So you're having to like set up cameras and take photos of yourself. I don't know. That's
yeah,
it. We don't have to
like,
go
that's
into too
a
much
really
detail.
That's a good idea.
that's great.
Yeah, right? Right?
Man, look at
So
that.
anyway.
Nolan and Crispy are fucking game designers over here. Look at this shit.
I mean,
That's a shame.
photography as a mechanic has always been great. It's just never utilized in games for like gameplay purposes.
Right. Okay. Real
There's
quick.
lots of cool indie games with.
I didn't really tell y'all I wanted to do it this way before we started, but I do want to take a quick break. So I'm gonna recap what we talked about. We'll come back and we'll do our number one. It'll be a quick break, but just as a dividing point here. So real quick, we'll come back in a second and do our final choices. But as a recap, Crispy said, I'm going to come into your home. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Star Trek Online.
But good.
I don't know how to describe it.
But
But good.
good, yeah.
But good, yeah.
Yeah.
Nolan has said you've been served to spin on Papers, Please, kind of reverse. Plus Super Hot and emerging of Superhot and Crypt of the Necrodancer. Also sounds awesome. Brad said Open World Monster Hunter, co-developed by Capcom and CD Projekt Red, and Kiryu Goes West, Yakuza in the USA. Chris said Stargate SG-1 by Firaxis, or in the same vein as a Firaxis game, and G.I. Joe via DICE. And I said LA Noire 2 by Hangar 13. I'm not sure if that's my final choice or what. And Daredevil by Insomniac. So with that said, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll run through our number one choices. So if you're listening or watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's time to wrap up this top 3 podcast with our number one choices.
It just sounds bad. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. Top three just sounds crappy.
Hey,
maybe we should come up with like another name to say top 3. Like what's a catchier way to say top 3?
I don't know, but you think on that and you get back to me. This is
15.
still this is
3 best.
But you know, I said we were all long-winded, and here we are over an hour into this podcast with only 2 choices. So I'm glad we stuck with 3. So here we go. Our number one choice, starting in the same order we defined last time. So Crispy, what's your of your 15 pitches here? Which one speaks to you the most?
Let's see.
Probably 6, but
did we do 13? Yeah,
we did 13 and 3.
Okay.
Apparently.
Number 1. Okay, number 1 is one that we briefly talked about in Discord, and Brad reminded me of that. I mean, this is probably the safest one on the list.
Is this Wizard Sex?
No, Wizard Sex isn't on the list. That was a joke, Nicholas. But
I would have played that.
Would have been a great game. It would have been Teledildonics. It would have been all about it. Would have been a great game. No, but the number 1 item on my list is Bloodborne Western with the scope of Elden Ring.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I'm so horny for that idea.
It's basically just a sequel to Bloodborne that takes place in a different land that's based on a more like gothic Western. And the idea for that, I guess, comes from Father Gascoigne. Well, no, I just mean like the idea of taking Bloodborne in that direction comes from. Also, by the way, this is not like Dark Watch invented.
That's why I brought it up
Western
because I've heard you go off on Nick about that before.
Like, okay, whatever.
There is an artist who does just concept art and stuff who did like kind of I don't know if I'd call it Western, but kind of like a bright world treatment of Bloodborne. Just his kind of like putting it out there where it's like he's in a desert, and it looked like maybe it was more like set in Egypt or something. I'm not entirely sure, but there were enough parallels there, and I was like, that looks awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's logical to go from like a Gothic Victorian kind of setting to other settings that might branch out, you know, in relation, like as counterparts to real world places that were connected to the British Empire. You know, Wild West, I think, would be a cool idea. The idea in game, I guess, would be motivated by the fact that Father Gascoigne, one of the early bosses of that game, is said to come from a land far to the west, right? And he has more of this, like, you know, Western padre kind of look to him. He's got the big flat black hat. You know, he looks more like a priest you would see in a Western, right?
Yeah.
And awesome character. Pretty cool, very very fucked up backstory going on with him, and I wore his hat throughout all of Bloodborne because it was an awesome hat. And yeah, I just think that, like, I love Bloodborne. I want to see it come back. I want to see it do something different. And if it's FromSoft and they're making any video game now, it's gonna be compared to Elden Ring, so it has to be Elden Ring, right? And Elden Ring, one thing of the many things that Elden Ring did really well was that, like, kind of connecting the open world to dungeon spaces, right? Especially like those catacombs that you'd find, which to my mind, very reminiscent of the Chalice dungeons that were featured in the first Bloodborne. But what kind of sucked about Chalice dungeons is that they were just this like separate thing that you warped into from your hub, from the
Yeah.
Hunter's
Right.
Dream, and
You
they
didn't have that
weren't
organic
really
transition.
right. In the story, they talk about how they're like under the city, how like the city was built on top of the Chalice dungeons, and how they're like the remnants of some ancient civilization that. And that's where like the church, the healing church in Bloodborne learned how to do blood ministration and things like that, right? So it inhabits a really important place in the lore of that game, but its presence in the game is pretty lackluster. So I like the idea of an overworld, and this specific theme actually pops up a few times in my list because I had another one on here. I'm not trying to cheat the top three, but I had another one on
We'll
here
do.
that was just called Breath of the Wild with an Underdark, right? Because I think what's really cool is having an open world that you can explore, but have like the general direction of exploration go down,
Instead of
down
yeah.
into the earth, like down in levels. And I love that idea in Bloodborne of the Chalice dungeons and everything being built on top of them, and then like finding passages down into them, and
Yeah,
then
that would be cool.
exploring those. And I think that's what a Bloodborne sequel needs. And if you're gonna do one, why not set it in a spooky Western setting, right?
You know, it's that is maybe of all the ideas that I've seen come up tonight, that one feels like maybe the most realistic to me.
Hey, fuck you.
Because I mean, just because Bloodborne is inevitable, right? Bloodborne 2 is inevitable, and
I guess. I don't know. Is
I
it?
mean, every time I say every time I say it's dead, Brad tells me I'm crazy for thinking Bloodborne 2 isn't a thing. And you know
Well, so
what?
you
The more
either think or you
I
don't.
know, I
Which
mean,
one is it?
you've kind of convinced me. You have kind of convinced me. You're right. I mean, it is an incredible success for Sony as a partnership with FromSoft, and
It's a landmark PS4 game, and it's owned by Sony. Why would they not want to
you're right.
revisit it?
You're right. Exactly. You're right. But like, I think they would go in a different direction. I don't think if they did Bloodborne 2, it would look anything like Bloodborne 1 in terms of its like backdrop. So I think that's a very realistic idea, and it would be fucking amazing. So I'm all for it. Nolan, what's
Mhm.
your first choice?
Um. So if I had to choose, I mean, similar to Crispy, I actually have a big list of them, but I'll go with Katamari Battle Royale.
Oh shit!
So
Okay.
it's a bunch of people trying to build bigger Katamari balls to then take over, other people. But also, you want to throw in a twist, you can mix in some Donut County. So while some people are trying to make larger balls, some people are trying to make larger holes that could suck things in.
Oh
So you could
shit!
potentially do either way, but it would have to be like kind of battle
This
royale esque.
this is the horniest idea you've ever had, Nolan.
um, but so instead of having like a battle royale where it's like intense and stuff, it would still have like the kind of Katamari music. So you're rolling up things, but you're hearing the Katamari music. Um, I don't know how far it could
I
go.
love the shit out of
Obviously,
this idea.
you would have to have some things that could, in Katamari, you could get knocked back a little bit and you would lose a little bit. So you'd have to have some sort of thing where you can kind of be knocked back. Because obviously it would be difficult if everyone kind of starts at the same pace. Potentially they would all end up with balls the same size. So you'd have to have something that could affect, a reason to make it smaller so that one person has an advantage.
Balls and
Would
holes.
it
You
work?
should throw in a little genital jousting.
So you say that, but I actually did have where did it go? I did have a genital jousting on here somewhere.
Of course you did, Nolan.
Yeah, it was a combination, but yeah, it was a battle royale, genital jousting,
Dude,
in Donut County.
Johan's Johann Sebastian's genital jousting, right?
There you go.
Where you all have move controllers, and you're in a physical space, but it's
Mhm.
genital jousting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Someone say-
Teledildonics.
What do
Yeah,
you-
thank you. I was about to be,
Yeah,
can someone
wait,
please
what?
tell Dildonics, please?
What do you mean by move controllers in a physical space? Are you like running
Johann
around trying to?
Sebastian's joust,
Yeah,
but with
joust.
genitals.
So you're trying to shove move controllers up? other
Yes.
people's
Yes.
butts.
Yeah. You don't even need a console, Crispy. It's just move controllers and people's
Yeah,
butts.
I mean,
It's
All
not
you
a
need is a
video
control.
game.
the balls don't even need to light up, really.
Jesus.
Oh my god, this is so fucked up.
Sorry,
Anything
Nolan.
else you want to say about your choice there, Nolan? That went off
Nope.
the
I mean,
rails.
that was pretty much it. Yeah.
We need a name. We need a
Yeah.
name.
Ooh.
We should have
Katamari-
demanded names of all of these. Damn it.
Yeah, you're right.
Katamari Royale. I don't know. Just keep it simple. I don't. Mm. Well, why don't let's stew
We
on that
love
one.
Katamari holes.
Okay. No, I'm gonna veto that one.
What was the name of the?
I'm coming into your hole.
Okay, no.
God damn it.
it.
No. I'm rolling up into your hole.
No, I'm stopping all of this. Brad, what is your
Yeah.
choice?
Oh.
Oh my god.
Well, I'm
Fuck.
gonna go with something super safe, but like, it feels bad because Crispy just talked about a From Software game, but I mean, if we're talking about dream games, and it's, I mean, probably From Software, right? This is one I've always wanted ever since I played Demon Souls, really. But I mean, I want Castlevania to come back, and I want From Software to do it. And now I want them to do it in the scope of Elden Ring, where, because if you think of Dracula's Castle, it really is like the ultimate legacy dungeon, right? It's like the greatest, largest dungeon that From Software's ever made. But since we're in a post Elden Ring world, I want, the surrounding forests and villages and stuff, and just looming on the horizon is the largest, legacy dungeon thing that they've ever made. Like, the scale is just, you can't even imagine, right? Just Dracula's castle. It's hard to pin down. It's hard to define. Like, you can never see the entire thing, no matter what angle you're looking at it from the world. That's how crazy Dracula's castle world is. Well, in my vision. But here's the thing. I want From Software to make it, right? Because they're really good at making worlds and level design and atmosphere, right? But let Team Ninja do the combat. I want Neo's combat system, right, in my From Software game, right? Because honestly, I prefer the combat and action from the Neo games, with the cool weapon designs and stuff.
But
And,
the Team Ninja team that actually did Neo, and not the Team Ninja team that just put out a Final Fantasy game, right?
Look, Chris Davis, I don't need your input on my dream here. And I know a lot of people, because I've always wanted this From Software Castlevania game, even before Bloodborne. A lot of people were like, "Well, it's basically Bloodborne, right? I mean, kind of, right?" But Castlevania to me is, I need the music, I need those remixes, I need my holy water and my cross, I need the things that so clearly identify it as Castlevania, and it really is just the game that I want, more than anything, really. Well, maybe my number 2 is close, or my real number 2, but we'll mention that in when we get into. We'll do some honorable mentions at the end here, right? Because I got a lot of dreams.
Those will be very quick mentions. But
Castlevania needs to come back, and From Software. I mean, who's really better than them at? Who would do it better than them if we're talking about a real full budget 3D Castlevania game? I honestly,
I'm coming in your castle.
I'm coming in the castle, all over the library. Yeah, I mean, it's that. I want familiars. I want the soul system from Aria of Sorrow, which was basically in Neo too, right? Where every enemy kind of had a soul that you can get their ability. I want it to be the ultimate Castlevania game, and not like Bloodborne, which is like barely an RPG. I want heavy RPG elements like Elden Ring, like Symphony of the Night. No. It doesn't matter what armor you wear. Yeah, I can just wear this dumb boss's hat the entire game because my stats don't matter. I want RPG Castlevania by From Software. It's the best game.
Did either of the Neo games have a whip?
Yes.
Right?
Didn't they?
Well, it had a Kurosagama. No, it didn't have a whip. But
I mean, I feel like they're going to have a whip.
If Neo had a whip, I guarantee you it would be a lot better than any whip that From Software's ever made, because they're bad at whips. And
Bloodborne had the fucking threaded cane, which was an awesome
and it
whip.
had like
I use the shit out of the
Which
threaded
was an
cane.
awesome whip.
it was not.
It was. You're a
No.
hater.
Okay. Chris Davis, what's your number one choice?
So like everyone else, apparently I have also more than 3 choices here. But the one I would really love to see, and I just think is unrealistic to happen in this day and age, it's not a full game concept, and it's not an adaptation of an existing IP or franchise. It's a gameplay element. So and Nolan came close to actually what I was going to suggest here. So rhythm-based action games you don't really see.
Right.
But they're starting to get more common. You're seeing games like Ultra Kill or BPM, bullets per minute, where you have these strong rhythm-based musical element to an otherwise action game experience.
Okay.
And I think that's really cool. I think it needs to be fleshed out more, and I think it could be really cool in a few years. But it's not exactly what I really want. What I would want is to take that and apply it to a character action game, but the music element be its own entire gameplay system. And for that, I think of games like content that Harmonix has made, or like Audio Surf, games that in which there's a system that can take a music track that you upload to it. It analyzes the beat and the pacing of the music and the chorus and the whole structure of a song. And based on the song and your combat and your skill in combat, it can play segments of that song to match how well you're doing, but also increase a feeling of empowerment because you have that audio matching play to you. It's kind of hard to describe. I'm thinking like
It is hard to describe.
yeah, if you could imagine Harmonix taking the experience they had making Guitar Hero and Rock Band and rhythm games and taking music and breaking it down, analyzing it, and converting it into a playable experience with plastic instruments. If you could take that and you could incorporate it into a character action game, maybe just like an arena experience, but like a character game where you're doing very flashy moves like in Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden or something like that, Bayonetta. I think that could be really fun.
Are you talking about like pulling off combos and like attacks by like successfully like with like the button prompts that you associate with like Guitar Hero? Like,
so for example, that's half of it. The other half is based on your skill as you're playing. So what?
He said Godzilla. He said the other half is Godzilla.
No, Godzilla's not on my list because the Godzilla game I want
just came out.
Well, no, it hasn't happened yet. But we'll get to that. We can do that in another top
comes
5.
in your house.
Godzilla crushes my house. What it would be. No. So the music would build based on how well you're doing in combat. Like how in Devil May Cry you have like the ratings that you get for how well you're doing, how you're building your combos.
Style. Yeah.
But it tying into that, as you build your combos and build your meter, the music builds, the music swells until you hit the top rank, and then the music just fucking goes off.
That is what happened in Devil May Cry.
Yeah, the funny thing is that is kind of what they go for in Devil May Cry, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like you don't necessarily notice it, I think, unless somebody kind of points
that's
it out
a real
to you.
problem with it, is that you don't notice it when you get to that point, and by the time you get to that point, you're mostly done with that combat experience, or you suddenly get hit and you get knocked out of it and you lose that music, you lose that momentum.
Yeah.
Are you importing your own music into this game?
That's my thing, is that you can import your own music. The system analyzes the music and it plays it as a quote unquote custom soundtrack as you're in combat. So you could put like
That could
fucking
lead to
anything. Nick could
Trying-
have his
it
fucking head banging metal. You know, you could put the fucking Doom
And that's
sound.
just
I mean,
basically
it's-
Devil May
it
Cry, right?
seems like the best fit for a character action game. I'm thinking of like people like what are you gonna
Country
like
music.
throwing in like Ed Sheeran or something and like put like battling it out as like in Devil May Cry. Like it'd be weird. I mean, it'd be cool.
Could I
I
have
guess.
the audio from Hintar in the game?
I
No.
mean, theoretically, the system, if it can detect enough, if it's long enough and it detects enough beats and a basic song
is
structure
long and there are
rhythm,
some
then
beats.
maybe.
Teledildonics.
Yeah, teledildonics. But for what this game could be, I don't have like a story in mind really, but I would want Harmonix to build this music system, and I would want the character action gameplay experience to be built by like Ninja Theory or not necessarily
cool.
modern Team Ninja, but maybe like 15, 20 years ago, Team Ninja.
Chris Davis, I just
Oh, man,
realized
you
I have no idea what kind of music you listen to, and I'm envisioning like Devil May Cry, but with like 1950s, like barbershop or ice cream shop like music or whatever the fuck.
Like barbershop quartets.
No, no, you should be envisioning maybe like classic rock, like AC/DC or.
Oh,
Eagles
okay,
or
that makes
something.
sense.
But
actually.
that wouldn't.
Oh, barbershop quartets.
No, I just
What?
my
said-
inspiration is looking at how Doom 2016 did its music, and how when you went in for a glory kill, the music would go off and explode. But that was like a very specialized scenario for doing music. I want a system that can do that just by you uploading a music track and be able to analyze and split it up and just play segments to where it flows evenly and it just matches your combat.
It would lead to some truly amazing internet content one way or the other. Crispy, you were trying to say you're the barbershop quartet guy?
That's me.
That's you?
I'm the guy who.
I mean, I would love to watch somebody play a game like that to a barbershop quartet. That'd be cool. All right. And bringing it home tonight is my number one pick. And this is actually, I'm going to pick this one because obviously we didn't do a normal show this week, so we didn't really have a chance to talk about news. But this is in the news, and it is definitely kind of a dream project for me, in a sense. It's not necessarily what's actually happening, but Silent Hill is back in the news in a very, very big way right now. In fact, there's like 15 different projects, not really 15, there's like 3 separate projects that are rumored in development right now that are Silent Hill related. Konami seems to be on the cusp of like relaunching Silent Hill as a franchise. So I was sitting here thinking, obviously, I love Silent Hill. I've always loved Silent Hill. In fact, the cancellation of Silent Hills was like one of the most tragic things that's ever happened to me in the gaming ecosystem. You know what I mean? Like it's just broke my fucking heart. So I'm sitting here obviously thinking, I want Silent Hill to make a return someday, and it looks like it's about to. I don't know, and I'm trying to think of like who I would want to actually bring it back. Part of me is like, if I'm being realistic here, God, I would love them to actually give Kojima his opportunity to go ahead and make Silent Hills or whatever Silent Hills would be today if he was given the chance. But because
Hildonics.
but yeah, but because that's too sad to even think about, because I don't think that's what's going to happen. I was trying to think of like what other studios would be great for Silent Hill. It would obviously be a partnership with Konami. In fact, that's what they're doing, is they're kind of farming Silent Hill out to other studios. The main one being Bloober Team apparently is working on a Silent Hill 2 remake. I don't know what the fuck that's gonna be.
There are suggestions that project is supposed to be very, very faithful to the source material and not like a reinterpretation kind of remake.
Not like Shattered Memories is what you're saying.
Very much correct. Yeah.
Right. And then there's another game that was leaked this week. I don't know if there's a studio associated to that particular leak, but some are theorizing that it's a first-party Sony project. Even think it could be Kojima. I don't know, But that seems to be like the next mainline entry in Silent Hill, and then there's a like an adventure game, I think, or that's being developed somewhere else. I forgot what it is, but I was like,
Like an
what studio?
A24 episodic thing, right?
Yeah, like an episodic thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, those aside, who would I want to tackle Silent Hill? And a lot of different studios come to mind. I was trying to think of like if there was a Western studio versus a Japanese studio, like which one's in the respective.
We know you're going Western, Nick.
Well, no,
I thought he was
I
going to
kind
say
of thought
level
of
5.
I thought of both, and I was like, yeah, that would be a terrific hit, Nolan. I was thinking like, and this might sound strange, but like, I'm thinking like Tango GameWorks as like as an Eastern studio. I feel like because especially with the Evil Within 1, they were doing a lot of really trippy shit. They had the atmosphere down. I mean, obviously they were going more for the Resident Evil thing than the Silent Hill thing, but like they have, and even with Ghostwire Tokyo, despite the fact that I didn't love that game, like they commit to their creative visions, and they have cool, like colorful ideas. And I think if they were to tackle something with Silent Hill, they could make something totally out of left field. They could even
Right.
they could even go open world to a degree. Although it makes me a little nervous now after Ghostwire. But what's up, Nolan?
I did have on one of my runner-ups. I did have developed by Tango GameWorks on one of my runner-ups.
Which was there a game in mind?
We'll
get there?
we'll get to it when we get to the
Okay.
runner-ups. Yeah.
And then I was trying to think of if there was a Western studio that was to tackle Silent Hill. My first thought was maybe Ninja Theory, but then I was like, yeah. But then I was like, Naughty Dog, man. Maybe Naughty Dog could do a cool Silent Hill game. It would be different. It would be very story focused, obviously very story driven. But like they get the emotional core of like what I love about Silent Hill. A lot of it has to do with kind of the emotional stories they're telling, and I think that they could really nail that. And
I mean, there are a couple spooky areas in The Last of Us Part 2.
And there's spooky areas in Last of Us Part 1. Like they get atmosphere. I would hope it would be closer to The Last of Us Part 2 than Last of Us Part 1, just in terms of like not feel. I don't want it to end up feeling like kind of like an on rail cinematic thing, like a lot of Uncharted was and whatnot. But I don't know. I think they would really nail like the things that I do love about Silent Hill. Although Silent Hill has never been very combat focused, and a lot of Naughty Dog has been very combat focused. Same thing with Ninja Theory. So not sure if either one of those are great fits. I think Tango might be the closest fit to it. But you know what? I would love to see any one of those studios tackle Silent Hill. So that's my number one. All I want is this. I want Silent Hill to come back in a big way, and I want it to be a success, which may happen sooner rather than later. So that's pretty cool. And that, guys, brings us to the end of our official top 3. So now I want to let us rattle off some honorable mentions.
I'll go first. These are just titles. I mean, they're just not titles. They're no explanation needed. You'll understand. Okay? I'm just going to go down my list. Full budget, proper Parasite Eve remake of the original.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
A Team Matsuno strategy RPG, like Tactics Ogre, but in the Song of Ice and Fire universe.
Ooh.
An ArcSys fighting game with Final Fantasy characters, Final Fantasy crossover. Give me Guilty Gear, but Final Fantasy basically, or Monster Hunter in the Soul Calibur engine.
I like that.
Front Mission brought back as through the vision of Valkyria Chronicles.
Ooh.
Open world Half-Life game with a portal gun. Come on, we've all been dreaming of that one.
Yeah,
I think we all just got horny for that idea.
Bring that game.
A reasonable small project revival of The Legacy of Kain / Soul Reaver, but from the vision of Supergiant Games.
Brad,
Ooh.
these are dream games. Don't use words like small and limited.
Okay, well, I mean, Supergiant Games. You got the writing, you got the voice acting. They know what they're doing. Sure. I think they can bring back Kain.
Yeah,
sure. I want a full-blown fantasy RPG by Rockstar Games. I finally want that multiplayer Hitman game that I've been wanting forever. Hitman, but multiplayer.
Yep.
2 more. Just bring back Elite Beat Agents. Just do another one of those. And finally,
course.
since you brought up level 5, Nolan, Dark Cloud 3. Come on, bring
Dark
that
Cloud
back,
3.
please. God.
Dark
Obviously.
Cloud 3 would
That's
be an
it.
honorable mention for me as well. Who else has
All right.
honorable mentions?
So some of my runner ups. So the Tango GameWorks game that I talked about would be the Prey 2 game that we never got, but in like a Cowboy Bebop universe. So I would like a Cowboy Bebop bounty hunting game by Tango GameWorks.
So why Tango GameWorks? Just out of curiosity, like what about them?
I was just trying to think of a studio that I think could handle that well, and I think almost I'm combining Ghostwire Tokyo's like
Aesthetic?
cityscape with Evil Within's kind of atmosphere, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
That's kind of what I wish Ghostwire Tokyo was, to be honest.
Well, yeah. So another one is a Oregon Trail game in the style of XCOM. So when you're kind of going off on your adventure, you have like, ford the river, you have like a 60% chance to, kind of stuff like that. A little more kind of in depth when you're like doing like your hunting. Maybe the hunting excursions are a little more in depth, kind of like an XCOM battle. A Hitman game, but in the style of QWOP. So you're having to like think of the more recent Hitman in VR. So you're actually doing things, but it's like QWOP style. So you're kind of like having trouble trying to like take out
like
someone.
Octodad or something.
Is everybody else?
Exactly.
Is everybody else in the game like all sloppy and uncoordinated,
just
or is
you.
it just you?
It's just you, and you're doing that. You're like Edgar from Men in Black, where he's trying to like act normal, and he's like trying to he's like looking super awkward, but yeah, kind of like that. So I already said the Pokemon Snap one. And then I had one earlier where we kind of talked about it, but it was like kind of like an FTL meets Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. So it's kind of similar to FTL, but it's like you can't really pause, and you have multiple people actually controlling people in the spaceship. But yeah, those are some of the ones I kind of thought about.
Awesome. Crispy, you want to name off any of the other ones you had on your list?
Yeah, okay, I'll run through them. Let's see what we got. So some of the ones I didn't mention were Giant Persistent Dungeon World, which was essentially like No Man's Sky, but instead of being a galaxy, it's it's one giant dungeon world that everybody is stuck in.
Neat.
Let's see, Jedi game that is actually Dark Souls, Elden Ring. So just kind of Jedi Fallen Order,
at least
but
one of those, right?
which is like, yeah, it's like the idea of Jedi Fallen Order, but kind of like taken up to 11, right? I think it'd be cool.
Right.
Maybe even just set it on a single planet, but it's like a cool planet filled with like ancient Sith tombs and temples and shit like that.
Right.
There's Wizard Game, which I didn't really get very far with this one, but I know it has to do with spell books. Like it should be about maintaining and using a spell book. It should be about learning and formulating spells, like in Magic Formula, and like the magic should be weird. It shouldn't just be like throwing around different types of elements and like fire and water. It should be like weird shit, This one I briefly mentioned before, Breath of the Wild, but with an Underdark, because that is really cool to me.
Look, the youth of today don't understand what Underdark is.
So
you gotta
Underdark,
say no. The Upside Down.
but it's not, okay, but that's different. That's like the ethereal plane. The Upside Down is just fucking Link to the Link
Dark
between
World.
worlds and Link to the
Dark
past.
World, yeah.
Link to the past, yeah.
But like an Underdark, where it's like there is a persistent dungeon functioning under the surface, and like you're going up and down, and like up on the top world, it's kind of safe, but there's stuff to do and like a lot of supplies, and then you have to like go down. I think that'd be cool.
Don't forget that first trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 did feature Link and Zelda venturing underground. I don't know what that is, but it could be.
Seal for a river.
Don't know, but yeah, the whole idea of the Underdark is that it's just like
the Seal for a River in Elden Ring.
Yeah, but like the idea of the Underdark is that it is as vast as the surface world, but all underground.
That would be cool.
What I'm saying? Like completely endless. Next one, superhero MMORPG, but good. Some of the stuff I really liked about
There-
DC Universe Online was that like it was an open world city, or there was two open world cities. I wish they were bigger, but like it felt really cool picking like your own sort of movement power, and then like moving around this open world just kind of as you would, right?
right.
And make it customizable, make it so that like power sets, like you're making choices based on effects, not on like necessarily how you manifest those effects, and that's where like the customization comes in, right? Okay, giant mech battle royale. This is one I've talked about a lot. I think there should be a battle royale game with mechs, or at least with a mech. Maybe
Apex
something
Legends.
Apex
but with
Legends. Right. I think Fortnite did this, like, but kind of half-assed it and added like one mech and then had to remove it because it broke the game. I don't know what the fuck I meant by this, but I said a video game that isn't a video game. I think
Cool.
horror
Teledildonics.
haunted. Horror haunted. It's a game that like you try to boot up and it doesn't work, but then weird shit starts happening outside of the game, right? A game based on House of Leaves, which I thought would be like again that like persistent dungeon idea, of like going into the 5.5 minute hallway and like going into the weird like horror space that lurks inside that house. Um, the idea that like it would be multiplayer, but only sometimes, like you would go a really long time without being connected with anybody, but then like all of a sudden you'd be connected with someone, and like there would be another person there, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, like, are you gonna help me, or are you gonna like try to fight me and
Doesn't
kill
tell
me
you.
Journey.
You
and
turn a
take my
corner and there's a
supplies?
guy who's like,
Yeah, and then like
these are
after you
one-line pitches, Crispy.
I'm trying. And then like after a while, like the game will cut you off from that person, right? Okay. Bring back Assassin's Creed multiplayer and just like do it, like fix it, like make it better. Come
Yep.
on, why did you give it up? Gotham by Gaslight sounded like it could have been kind of cool, but I don't know. It's just gonna be like a Batman video game, I guess. But it's Gotham by Gaslight. Could have been
I love
cool.
it.
This is okay. This is a really good one. This is a real game that was made as an art installation by a man named Jonathan Zunger or something like that. The game is called Lie to the Devil, and basically it was set up in a museum. There was a room that had a window, and the window was framed so that like onlookers could look into the room. But someone would go into the room and play this game, and the game was basically sitting at a computer that has an AI that's going to talk to you, and the AI like wants to hurt you. So like part of the experience is just watching people play this game without any context of what's going on, because the trailer like shows people sitting down and they're all kind of like laughing and kind of nervous, and then as the game goes on, like it gets really serious, and like people like they stop dropping their smiles, and then like all of a sudden they're like picking stuff up off the table because the game is telling them to, and like there's a part in the game where they tell you where they make you play Russian roulette, and there's like a gun that you pick up that's hooked up to the computer that you have to like put to your head, and it just sounded really weird and wild, but it was like you could only play it at these like art installations that this one guy like would go and set up, and
Dude,
I
that
always
sounds
wanted
like
to try it.
some.
Yeah.
What was the game? What was the game that like completely took over your life for a while from PAX?
Oh, it was like some Camdrome shit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
like Camdrome.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's really weird. I don't even know that it's so much of like a game as it is just like an experience, but I think it'd be great. The last one I said was something really weird and fucked up like Random Nautica, which isn't really a game, but again, it's that idea of like something spooky that has like an AR or like real life component to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool. Like that one game that we played on PC where it was like putting files on your desktop without telling you, and then like you were seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What was that? I Am Scared?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
That
thing
was like
about
a
like
very.
Random Nautica was like it was this like weird app that would like you would think about something and hit a button, and then it would like show you a position on like Google Maps and be like, go here for an adventure. And then like people would post these weird videos of like, oh, we went to where Random Nautica told us, and like we saw fucking Bigfoot, or like a hobo tried to kill us, or you know, weird shit like that. And it's mostly just a meme, and it was just something that kids were doing that was like really popular for a minute. But I don't know, I think there's something there. I think there's something weird. If you could just like, keep people from getting arrested, I think there's something there.
That's the
Like,
trick. That's the trick. All right.
yeah.
Chris Davis, do you have any honorable mentions?
Plenty actually. So I'll try to rattle them off. First off, a lady hitman game. Come on, man. That would be fucking
A
great. I would
lady
love to play
hitman.
that.
Okay.
Just
a
Hitman, but it's a lady.
Hitman, but you're a lady.
Hit lady, hit
Hit
woman.
lady, hit woman, whatever. I
No,
want.
don't do that, Chris Davis. That's horrible.
God damn it. Okay, Nick, can you cut that out? I'd appreciate it. So a remake of the 4X game Star Wars Rebellion. I would love to play that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I've talked about it in the past, but the original pitch for the Tom Clancy crossover game in which you experienced both Rainbow Six, Splinter Cell, and Ghost Recon all in a singular game with the integrated storyline. It was a pitch they actually were thinking about back in 2006, but never happened.
Didn't pan out though. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. Open world survival game, which you're just base building and kind of surviving with a bunch of people in the world, but there's kaiju on the map, and you can unite as like groups of players to actually fight the kaiju and actually win. But it's very hard. It's kind of like what COD Warzone is doing right now with the Godzilla
King
versus Kong scenario, but
yeah.
unlike that, you actually have an impact on what you're doing.
Okay.
Also, a Men in Black police procedural a la L.A. Noire.
L.A. Noire makes another appearance. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I think that'd be fucking
I
great.
like
I mean,
it.
unfortunately, L.A. Noire is the go-to like police game.
Dude, you know what? You know what? If they could figure out all the logistics of L.A. Noire and fix that stuff, and then layer Men in Black on top of it, I'd be fucking all in on that. That sounds awesome.
Well, not necessarily a 1-to-1 remake, but maybe even a remaster of Metal Gear Solid 4, but this time they actually give Solid Snake a good ending, a happy ending for him.
Happy ending.
Because they do that character dirty, and I've never forgiven Kojima for that. A remake or a reinterpretation of Jurassic Park Trespasser. Really ambitious game for the time that just did not work. But what they wanted to do with it and the ideas they had were years ahead of the entire fucking industry. Two more.
You looked at your boob because the heart tattoo on your boob was your health.
Your health meter.
It was way ahead.
It was weird, but like it's not a bad
Jurassic
idea.
Park Trespasser?
Yeah, you've never seen Trespasser?
I mean, apparently not enough of it. Okay, sorry. Continue.
Okay, yeah. All right. A anti-battle royale game in which players
You try to make friends with 100 people.
Kind of. The idea would be that it's a Armageddon style. There was a mod for Arma 3 called Armageddon, in which you spawned onto map and the map was slowly sinking beneath the sea. So the sea level was rising, and meteors were like crashing down the world, and there were tornadoes. It's just the end of the world scenario. You had to escape the map. So you would have, in this scenario, you would have players come together to combine resources to build an escape craft and escape the map.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, but then you build the craft, and it's like, oh no, there's 100 of us, and it can only carry 30 people.
Kind of, yeah. We then go there.
And you know what? And then cue the Titanic meme, the women and children.
We are just doing a second top 3.
I know. I told you.
And my last idea, and it's something I cannot believe somebody has either never pitched or just never has been formally revealed to the world that it was a canceled project.
In one line.
An Inception tie-in franchise game in which you play as extractors hired to go in a heist game to go into people's dreams and use dream logic and non-Euclidean architecture to steal ideas and knowledge.
Payday Inception.
Payday Inception, but less combat oriented.
I'm coming in you.
Sure.
I don't think they were stealing ideas.
Damn it, Nolan.
Okay.
In Inception.
Okay. I'm gonna make mine very quick. I'm gonna make my because this is how Let me show you how honorable mentions are supposed to go. All right, my honorable mentions start now. Alien Isolation 2 by the Creative Assembly. I don't know what the fuck it would be, but God, I love that game so much, and I want them to return to it. Jade Empire 2 from BioWare, but like good BioWare, like Mass Effect era BioWare.
Time travel,
Dragon Age.
Jade Empire 2, we get it. Go.
Yes. Red Dead Redemption 3 starring Sadie Adler. I wrote down bring back
have you
Mad
played
Dog McCree,
Psychonauts,
but I think that's a
Chris
joke.
Go.
What?
No, I own it, but I just
Continue.
never gotten around to it.
Continue. Sorry, Nick.
Um, quite honestly, that Hogwarts Legacy game is a dream game. That's actually coming true. And
Oh,
I wrote Dexter via Telltale or Don't Nod. I had to put Dexter in here somewhere, and I feel like the only way you could use that character in a video game format would be to make it more story focused and have just be making decisions. So I don't know. Telltale seems like maybe the most logical choice, but Telltale kind of doesn't exist anymore. I don't fucking know. Does that make sense?
no.
And that's it. Those are my honorable. That short and sweet honorable mentions. There we go, guys. That's it. We've reached the end of our top 3 video game podcast, the maiden voyage, I suppose. First of all, I just want to say, let us know. Yeah, Karth is right. I didn't mention Jason Bourne. What's wrong with me? That there should be a Jason Bourne game.
Isn't there?
There was a
Insert
Jason Bourne game. It was
here.
okay.
I know.
Ooh, how
but
about a Jason Bourne game, but it's like Myst?
What? Like Jason
Okay.
Bourne just
What?
washes up under the island from Mist?
No, I mean that was the interview with Matt Damon. Someone asked him, "Why weren't you in that Jason Bourne game?" And he said, "Well, I wanted it to be like Myst," and they were like, "Nah."
Yeah.
He basically didn't
That's
want it to
right.
be he didn't want it to be a shooter, and they wanted it to be a shooter. So, all right, guys.
Oh,
So
he
first of all,
said
I want
Myst.
to say again, this is kind of an experiment. We're trying to revisit this, and if y'all like this episode and you want us to do more of them, please let us know. Reach out to us on Twitter. Reach out to us in Discord. Post a comment on the website. Would appreciate it. What's up, Nolan?
One final runner-up: Mad Max meets The Witness. And it's called Witness Me,
God damn
and
it.
it's a post-apocalyptic puzzle game.
Is
With
it chill?
teledildonics.
Is it chill or not chill?
It depends.
All right.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Cool. Yeah, so guys, first of all, let us know in the comments, in Discord, on Patreon, wherever you happen to reach out to us. Let us know if you want to see us do more of these. Right now, the idea is as far as part of 4Player Plus, this is a side podcast series, maybe do one of these a month, so 12 a year. We're going to be taking suggestions for future lists from you guys. So if you're a supporter on Patreon or Twitch, you can let us know in the supporters channel. You can post on Patreon, whatever you need to do to get the idea to us. We'll take it into consideration for another episode in the future. I hope you had fun. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you want us to do more of these, please let us know however you want. Just make sure we get the message. Of course, we'll be back next week with our regular show. We'll talk impressions, we'll talk news, all the good stuff. So you can find all of our episodes on 4playernetwork.com. You can join us in Discord at discord.gg/4player. And if you want to support us financially, head on over to patreon.com/4player. But enough about that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.